Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing with Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter number 13, text number 34. These are the last two verses of this chapter, 34 and 35. So we'll cover both of them. Yatha prakashyati ekaha kritsnam lokam imam ravihi kshetram kshetri tatha kritsnam prakashayati bharata. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. O son of Bharat, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmanitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. First of all, Hare Krishna to all of you. Thank you so much for joining. And we are almost towards the end of chapter number 13. It has been a very long one, taken us many weeks to cover it. And so today's topic is these two verses are going to talk about how can we attain the supreme goal. We all have a lot of material goals in life, that we want to progress, as far as our profession is concerned or whatever it may be. But Bhagavad Gita in these two verses is going to show us how we can attain the supreme goal, which is going to give us permanent happiness. Now, the verse that we read today just now is talking about the spirit soul, which is within the heart, within the body. And as the scriptures say, we cannot see the spirit soul because it's 1/10,000th tip of the hair. So you take the tip of the hair, cut it into 1,000 pieces, take that one piece and cut it again into 1,000 pieces. And that one small piece is the size of the spirit soul. Now, how do we know it's there? The proof is the consciousness. That's the difference between a dead body and a living body, that there is consciousness in the body. That's the proof of the soul. So in this verse that we read, Krishna is giving a very nice example of the sun. Many times we are not able to see the sun depending on, our location, but we know that the sun is present because of the sunlight. As soon as we see the sunlight in the morning, we know the sun is there. That is the proof of the sun. So similarly, the consciousness in the body is a proof that the soul is there. Now, the sun is in one place, but it illuminates the entire universe, and completely. So similarly, the soul is within the heart, but it is illuminating the entire body. That is how important the spirit soul is. That's this body that we identify with on a daily basis, like I say, oh, this is Gita, that's my name, this body is Gita. But we never think about the spirit soul within the heart. Now, say, tomorrow I die, my body is there, lying there. But everybody is, crying that Gita is gone. Gone where? The body is still there. That means we understand there was something inside the body that left. And that was that spirit soul. The consciousness is gone. So we can see that if the soul is not in the body cannot move. The senses do not work. The soul out of the body becomes useless. But when the soul is inside the body, that you cannot put value on the body. But this very famous scientist, Harry Monson, his research shows that the dead body, the value of the dead body is only $5.60. That's about it, based on whatever little chemicals are left in that material body. So with the help of our philosophical intelligence, we should try to understand the difference between body and soul, and not just give importance to the body, need to give importance to the soul as well. In chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, very clearly Krishna explains in Sanskrit, Dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatyana muhyati. He says that as the spirit soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, similarly the soul passes on to another body at the time of death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change, which means he's expecting us to become sober. And how can a person become sober? With the help of knowledge. So when we have the basic faith that the Bhagavad Gita was spoken by the Supreme Lord Krishna 5,000 years ago in India on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, when we have that basic faith, then we can build on that faith with the help of knowledge. Take on the knowledge and contemplate on it and see, is it something that we are interested in or not? Here it's very clearly explaining that the soul is not matter. It is the body which is made up of material elements. That is the difference. Soul is spiritual. Why is it spiritual? Because it is part of the Supreme Lord. Krishna says, Mamai Vamsha Jivaloke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. That Sanatana means eternal. In chapter 2, we learned that the soul, it cannot be burnt, it cannot be cut by any weapon, it cannot be dried, it cannot be drowned. Nothing can happen to the spirit soul. Why? Because it is eternal. So we need to understand that our body is important because of the presence of the spirit soul inside the body. Now, in this chapter, from the very beginning, in this chapter 13, we understood that this body is considered like a field of activities. If you remember, Arjuna was asking questions, what is the field of activities? Who's the knower of this field of activities? So this body is a field of activities, and the spirit soul is the knower of this field of activities. Now, the difference is that we are aware of our own body. Just like you all are here on Zoom, I'm not aware of what's going on in your body, only in my body. Whereas the Supreme Lord Krishna, he is aware of what's going on in each and every body. Why? Because he's situated in the heart as the super soul. So basically, we have individual consciousness, whereas the Supreme Lord has supreme consciousness, which means he's conscious of everyone. Let's see what the last verse of this chapter talks about. It says, those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to the supreme goal. So you see, here we have the process given to us by which we can reach the supreme goal, ultimate goal. How? With the help of knowledge. So first of all, Krishna says, understand the difference between body and soul. Along with that, to remove the bondage. You see, right now we are in bondage in the material world. Now we may say, but I'm not in bondage. I mean, no one has tied my hands or legs. I'm free. But we are still in bondage. What kind of bondage? We are in bondage because we are working in 3 different modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Not only that, we are in bondage based on our karma. You see, karma is action and reaction. So in chapter 3 and 5 of Bhagavad Gita, we learned a lot about karma yoga, how we should perform our activities. So there is karma, action, reaction. Then there is vikarma. Vikarma means we are doing activities which are against the scriptures, which are kind of sinful. And then there is akarma. Akarma is we are performing our actions following the scriptures, following the laws of the Supreme Lord. And at the same time, we are not hankering to enjoy the results of our activities. That is our karma, and that is karma yoga. When we do work in that consciousness, then there are no more reactions, neither good nor bad. And then we are able to break the cycle of birth and death, and we become free from bondage. That is what we learned in chapter 3 and 5. So this chapter 13, which is nature, enjoyer, and consciousness, that's the title of this chapter, is teaching us to understand, again, difference between body and soul, understanding the owner of the body is the soul, and the owner of all the bodies is the supreme soul or the super soul. And one can get liberation only with the help of knowledge. Now, just knowledge is good, but it's not good enough. Because when we take on this knowledge, then it's important to put it into practice. Application is required. So knowledge plus application equals to wisdom. Then we become wise. So when we take on the knowledge and put it into practice, then it'll be easy for us to reach the ultimate goal of life. Of course, just like take anything in this world, anything that we do need basic faith. Just like we have faith in the news channels that are there, on TV, CNN, ABC, or whatever it may be, we have faith that they are bona fide and they're going to give us bona fide information, because we have invested our faith in them. Similarly, if we invest our faith in the Bhagavad Gita, which is the science of self-realization, then we will be able to build up on that faith and try to make it more firm. If you want to move forward, say for instance, CNN News, announces, there is a news channel and they announce, they are reporting that X flight, or whatever, there was some mishap in some country, or there was an earthquake, or, there were floods or whatever. Now I have two choices. One is to have faith in this bona fide source of knowledge, which is the news channel, or I do my own research. Say it says that there was an earthquake, say in Japan. Now, if I don't have faith in the news channel, then the other option for me is to fly to Japan and go and see for myself. Is there an earthquake? Oh, there is. Okay, now I believe it. So we have these two options. So best thing is to go with the first option, where we have faith in bona fide sources. So in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned that evam parampara praptam imam rajashayo viduhu. Krishna tells Arjuna that if we want to get this spiritual science, if we want to understand the science of self-realization, then we need to hear it from bona fide source. Bona fide in the sense that they are coming in the strict disciplic succession. For instance, just like I have heard what I'm speaking to you, I've heard it from my spiritual teacher. And my spiritual teacher explained it to me, everything that he heard from his spiritual teacher. So this way, the succession goes all the way up to the Supreme Lord Krishna himself. And that's what we learned in the history of the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 4. So to make this faith more firm or more strong, it requires for us to do some meditation. And the meditation, the easiest and best way to meditate is called mantra meditation. Mantra, man means mind, and tra means to free the mind of all anxiety. So when we chant the mantra, then those sound vibrations, they enter into our ears and they go straight to the heart, and they start cleansing the heart of all the unwanted things that might be there. So when there is purification of the heart, then this knowledge starts making sense. Then we are able to really understand. So when we start associating with like-minded people, say supposing I am very fond of learning Indian classical dancing. So the best thing would be for me to go to a bona fide school of dancing that is teaching that classical dancing, and also associating with those students who are also learning, or associate with the teacher, bona fide teacher who is teaching, so that I can learn. So association plays a very important role. So just like we meet here on Wednesdays and together we read the Bhagavad Gita, we try to understand it. So that is also association. So when in association we hear the Bhagavad Gita or we read the Bhagavad Gita, then there is enlightenment. And that enlightenment, it of course does not just happen automatically. We have to put in that effort. We need some guidance. Just like to learn anything in this world, we need a teacher, right? Whether it's dancing, music, singing, sports, or whatever it may be, a software, we definitely need a teacher to guide us. Similarly, we need someone to guide us even in Bhagavad Gita. Now, theoretically, we may understand, oh, I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul. Very easy to understand, but it becomes very difficult to put it into practice. Now, to put it into practice, Krishna has explained to us in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that we need to perform devotional service, which is called Bhakti Yoga. Yoga means connection with the Lord. And bhakti means devotion. How do we do that? By performing devotional service. So and that is also called sadhana bhakti, right? That is a practice. So the first step of sadhana bhakti or bhakti yoga is chanting the holy names of the Lord. And that is why after every class, we do a little bit of chanting so that we can get a hang of it, and then we can also practice it in our day-to-day life, on a daily basis, and it'll definitely be very, very helpful. So for instance, I have put some links here, but at the bottom you will see the mantra that we chant. The mantra is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So when we chant when we do this mantra meditation on a daily basis, then there will be spiritual realization. And just as in any endeavor in this material world, we need sincerity. In this also, we definitely need to put in sincere endeavor. Follow sincerely the instructions given in the Bhagavad Gita. The question may arise, why did Krishna speak the Bhagavad Gita? What was the need? There was need because we can see there are 7 kind of miseries in this world, and people, would like to get rid of these miseries, and Bhagavad Gita is the solution. What are the 7 miseries? Birth, disease, old age, death. Shivani, if you can mute yourself, thank you. So we have these 7 miseries: birth, disease, old age, death. And the other 3 miseries are miseries caused by our mind and body, miseries caused by others, and miseries caused by material nature like earthquakes, floods, or whatever it may be, you see. So these are 7 kind of miseries that people don't like. No one likes to die. No one likes to get diseased or become old, but then these miseries are there. So Bhagavad Gita is spoken so that we can learn from it how we can break the cycle of 7 miseries and reach the supreme ultimate goal. You see, the biggest problem that is stopping us here in progressing is being on the bodily concept of life. We are only thinking about the body, literally only thinking about how to please the body, forgetting the spirit soul, right? So if somehow or the other we can open our hearts to feeding the soul. We feed our body every day, but feeding the soul also. And what is the food for the soul? It is the mantra meditation that helps us to even sharpen our intelligence. It helps us, to make sure that we definitely reach the ultimate goal. You see, we have this gross body, but then we also have a subtle body. And the subtle body is situated in the heart, according to the Vedas. And the subtle body comprises of mind, intelligence, and false ego. So, mind, intelligence, false ego, plus the spirit soul, plus the super soul, all of them are situated in the heart. You see? So, when a person, when the spirit soul leaves the body and goes on to the next body, the subtle body goes along with the soul. The Supreme Lord, as the super soul, also goes along with them to the next body. So an intelligent person will try to find a solution so that we don't have to travel. Imagine I'm living in this home, say this is an apartment which is on lease, and every 11 months, I have to vacate. I have to go to I have to find another apartment, sign a lease and move all the stuff. Then after 11 months, again, I have to find another one and again move, packing, unpacking, packing, unpacking. That's very tedious, right? That is what we are doing with our soul. We are going from one leased body into another leased body. Why not break this lease agreement all completely and then go to a home which is permanent, where there is no lease and we don't have to move anymore, right? So stop this travel of the soul and the super soul and the subtle body from one body to another. Now, we've heard so much right from chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita about the spirit soul. We've already heard a lot. So we can see that in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is speaking for our benefit, so that, he's there in the heart to guide us, how we can go reach the supreme planet or the spiritual planet, which is the ultimate goal, how we can break the cycle of birth and death. He's speaking in the Bhagavad Gita. There are 700 verses, out of which 575 verses are spoken by the Lord himself. And out of that, more than 200 verses are only to guide us how we can reach this goal of life, how we can break this cycle. So here in this chapter, the summary of this 13th chapter is where Arjuna has asked a lot of questions and Krishna has answered them, that this body is the field of activities, the soul is a knower of the field of activities. Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is a knower of all the fields of activities, which means all the bodies. And of course, Krishna in this chapter talked also about his universal form, how he's spread everywhere, how he's the maintainer, he's the enjoyer, he's the master, and how he is beyond the senses. You see, the senses that we have, they are material senses. And but the senses of the Supreme Lord, they are transcendental. So he says he's beyond all these, but he's there in our hearts to guide us. You see, to show us the way. He is the object of knowledge. He is the goal. And Krishna says that only those who worship me with love and devotion can understand. There is a beautiful verse in the Bhagavad Gita which says, Bhaktya mam abhijanati, that only my devotees can understand. So for us to become a devotee, we have to devote, which means we have to perform devotional service, which is bhakti yoga. So, of course, the first step of bhakti yoga, just like there's a yoga ladder, There's karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, ashtanga yoga, bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is the topmost rung of the yoga ladder. And so Krishna wants us to either, gradually, step by step, go up, or we can also go directly to Bhakti Yoga. And the first step of Bhakti Yoga is to do mantra meditation. And that mantra meditation really helps us to not only sharpen our intelligence, but also it helps us to understand the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, in this chapter, Krishna also talked about, we living entities, that is the spirit soul, that we are the cause. If you remember, we covered this. Who is responsible for our enjoyments and sufferings? And Krishna explains that in this chapter, that we are the cause because we are the ones who are, performing those actions. So every action has a reaction. Say, for instance, I squeeze an orange. What is going to come out? Obviously, orange juice. I cannot expect mango juice to come out by squeezing an orange. So based on our activities, we get reactions. So if we do bad actions, definitely reactions are going to be bad, and simultaneously good actions are going to give good reactions. So Krishna explains that we are the cause of our own enjoyments and sufferings, and that is called karma. And we living entities, we are acting based on, the modes that we have acquired, whether it is goodness, passion, or ignorance. And the bodies that we have received in this life are based on our karma, based on our past actions. We have got a particular kind of body in a particular family, in a particular country, you see. So in other words, we are the ones who are responsible for the type of bodies that we are getting because it's based on our past actions. So in this chapter, finally, Krishna explains that he's the super soul, he's the proprietor, he's the one who witnesses, he's the sanctioner, he's the overseer. And when he sees our activities based on all the actions that we perform, then he gives us accordingly a particular kind of body. And along with that, he also gives the owner's manual, which is the Bhagavad Gita, so that we can attain liberation, so that there is no more birth. So Krishna says that whatever we see in this world is a combination of field of activities, which is the body, the knower, which is the soul. So anyone who understands this and who sees that the super soul is present in all the bodies, Krishna says that person actually sees. He's the one who is the actual seer, who can see, because with the help of knowledge is able to understand all these aspects of life. So if we see the super soul in everyone's heart, then Krishna says, then one will not degrade oneself by the mind. Then one will be able to, with the help of mantra meditation, be able to control the senses, control the mind, sharpen the intelligence, and be able to reach the ultimate goal of life. But the very first step is mantra meditation. So one more important point of this chapter that Krishna talked about was that it is the body that performs all the actions, but the soul does nothing. You see, the soul is not entangled in the actions of the body. So the soul does not get entangled, but it's the body that gets entangled. And that's why it's the body that experiences happiness or distress. So Krishna is asking Arjuna to take on the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita and see through the eyes of knowledge from the Vedas, understand the difference between body and soul, understand the easiest process to become self-realized. So this is how Krishna ends this chapter of the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And guess what? The very next chapter, which we will start from next week, next Wednesday, is modes of material nature. So in great detail, Krishna is going to explain, excuse me, how these three modes affect us. You see, goodness, passion, and ignorance. And towards the end of the chapter, he will give us a process by which we can transcend all these three modes and go to the level of pure goodness, where there are no reactions at all. So that's what we are going to learn in on next Wednesday, which is chapter number 14, called the modes of material nature. So before I end, excuse me, before I end, I will chant the Maha Mantra for a few minutes. And my humble request that you also please chant with me and see how, it can help us to become happy and peaceful. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So you see, I chanted 10 times, and there are 108 beats in this one round. So it takes about 8 to 10 minutes to chant this mantra 108 times. So it's my humble request that if you're not chanting, please start chanting and you will see the difference yourself. So I'm going to end now and see if anyone has any questions or comments. You're welcome.